the Cumbria Business Growth Hub podcast. Today I'm joined by Keith Jackson and Jacqui Jackson of Thomas Jardine & Co. We're very excited to have Keith and Jacqui working for the Growth Hub as business mentors on our business mentoring program. So we'll get into all of that in a bit. But just to start off with, can you both just introduce yourselves and share a bit about your backgrounds, please?
Jacqui first.
Hi, I'm Jacqui Jackson, and I'm a director of our fifth generation now family business. We've always been based in this area, in the borders. We have a co-working space in Carlisle, and we've spent many years working as we've gone from, I suppose, the family business over the generations, going from farming to grocery to convenience retailing to now consultancy and co-working. So we're very good at change, I think. And part of that was becoming, I suppose, getting mentorship and leadership and understanding the value of that, of helping people change along the way. And I think mentoring is one of those great tools for making that happen, or for helping that to happen.
I'm Keith Jackson, Jacqui's partner and business partner, and every other partnership you can think of. Like Jacqui says, we work with founders and family business leaders as they bring change into the business, or they have change thrust upon them. And as mentors, our main job is to listen.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So as the business has kind of changed over the years, you've had experience in kind of different types of business. Would that be correct to say?
Yeah, different types of business and different stages of growth in business as well. And I think that's where people almost need, when everything's going well, you don't really need external help and mentorship. But when there's a change point or an inflection point, or something's happening in your environment, or you feel that there is a want to change something, then that's probably where you need to bring in a mentor or somebody to help guide that, or listen. And maybe offer their experience in it, that their way of thinking about it, or ask you really good questions to help you unlock where you want to be. Because it doesn't really matter where we want to be, it's where the person running that business wants to be. And it's kind of helping them unlock with good questions and real listening. So I think that's invaluable, and think that's what we've learned along the way in a variety of experiences, whether we were working with universities or as vice chairman of SPA UK, those experiences of working with teams and boards to help unlock change adds a value. And I think it's always great to pass that on.
We've also worked within the university system, so we have an academic background that we understand how business models are created, and we can transfer the academic language into real, physical, useful models that the mentees can use.
Yeah, it's got to be tangible. You've got to be able to use it. You've got to be able to take an action.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're not making any change at all. It's nice to listen to, but it's not helping you move. So helping people move is always a great thing.
Yeah, definitely. So we launched this mentoring program about a year ago. How did you both become involved with it at the time? And can you just kind of give a bit of an overview of what the program involves and what mentees can expect from the program?
Well, we were actually approached by Leslie from the Chamber, weren't we? We've done mentoring for many years, and it was kind of like, this was a way of connecting. We're very passionate about our place in our region, and it's kind of what we want to do is create aspiration for people, that we can be a vibrant business ecosystem, really. So when Leslie approached us to say that we're going to run this pilot, we thought, that suits us. That's kind of, I'd like to be part of that. Because it is about the place, and it is about unlocking different ways of thinking, unlocking change. So we were delighted to be part of it. And there were only four of us at the time, four or five at the time, and we would get sort of 2 mentees each, and it just seemed great idea. Let's pilot this, because that's that do thing. If you try something, then you can achieve something. If you don't try it, you don't know.
So the program itself was quite intense. It was an online mentoring program, which meant it didn't matter where the person was based within Cumbria. It's 1 meeting a month for 6 months. It was open to any size of business, regardless of the sector. And at the end of each session, the mentee gives themselves a set of actions that we discuss and how they've worked out at the next session. So it was, like Jacqui says, it was very proactive. It was all about creating change or dealing with change within the business itself.
Sure.
Yeah.
And are you kind of sort of giving specific advice and saying, you know, do this, do that, or are you more trying to tease out that from the delegate?
We don't offer advice.
It's
Right.
not an advice session, no, definitely not. It's much more about really listening to what the mentee wants. What's their goal? What do they want to achieve and by when? And it's really trying to unlock their future for them, not what we would advise them to do, because we can't possibly know their context fully or the circumstances around it all. So it's about good questions, really listening, really getting them to set what they want. What do they want to achieve and how can we help them get there? It's definitely not an advice session. It's an absolute unlocking for them.
Yeah.
It's teasing out of their head what is floating about in their head all the time, and it's getting them to vocalize what they're thinking. And that really helps them move forward.
Yeah. We all know we don't get our own space very often. We're very busy people running what we run or doing what we do. It's very rare that you get the opportunity for somebody to really listen to what you want and try and unlock that. So it's really quite vital for an hour a month to really step out, to talk to somebody that's kind of impartial, not related to you, not connected to you, and is going to listen and then create some actions that you want to take, you know, that not what we as mentors want them to take, but what do they want to do? How will they move? And
get them to where they want to be, not where we think they should be, but to where they want to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. Can you give, you don't need to give specific details or anything, but you know, can you give an example of a business that you helped on the pilot program deal with a specific challenge and just kind of how you help them work through that?
Yeah, one example for us is a generation. Well, for me, was a generational handover of a business that had come kind of unplanned. So it's kind of what could help unlock the change in the dynamics in the different relationships between two generations and complex family ownership structures. So that was one example that we help think that through and work through some practical solutions. And another was about a change point of bringing in some leadership, some additional leadership into their business, you know, that might have been in business for 12 years and now needed to grow to that next stage. What could that look like and what would those options be? Let's think them through.
I suppose for me, one mentee was facing a dramatic change in the way their marketplace worked, especially post-COVID. So over a 6-month period, they adapted their business model to fit into the new marketplace. But more importantly, they set out a path that got the best out of what they wanted from the business from now on.
Yeah.
So it's working with the person, not just the business and not just the ecosystem, but working with the person themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And did you find that the mentees you worked with were experiencing similar challenges?
No.
No, they're all facing they're all at a different growth stage. Yeah. They're all in a different sector, and they're all either impacted by a slower growth or a rapid growth. And that really depends on where you are and what sector you were in at that moment in time and what you had around you. So every set of circumstances is different, but the fundamental is understanding what's going on around them, what's going on inside their business now and what's going on around that external environment and helping them unlock that, or whether they want to, what do they want to lean into? What do they really want to achieve? Because, you know, if you've been in business for quite a while, it's almost like a reframe point to say, where do I want my model to go next? You know, what does the next 10 years look like? That was an interest in 10 years. What does the next 10 years look like? And so it's mentoring at different stages for people, depending on where they're at. So it's all different.
Yeah, it's allowing them to realize that they are the expert in the room. And it's almost like allowing them to have a conversation between their past self and the future self. And you're mediating between the two.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. Can you just expand on that idea, sort of the past self, and yeah, that's an interesting idea.
Everyone's been on a journey. Everyone has got to this point in one way or another, and the decisions they've made have got them to where they are. So the first couple of sessions are really reflecting on how did you get there? And once they start to understand that from their own point of view, then start deciding, where do I want to go next? And how am I going to do this? So it's practically, it's getting them to reflect on how they got to where they are and where do they want to go to. So how are they going to do that?
Sure, yeah. Because I suppose when you're in business, sort of you can just get taken with the flow of things, and you can end up somewhere where it might be different from where you started, and those things that you wanted from the business have sort of gone by the wayside a little bit. Would that be?
Yeah, and that is fair. Or perhaps a customer segment has taken your strategy in a direction that you didn't intend.
Yeah.
So do you still want to go with that, or do you want to get back to your original goal of where you want to be? Because we can get into this busy loop of busyness. And it's kind of right. You've got a moment to pull back and say, actually, that's worthwhile. How can I restructure that? So that customer base is great, but I need this one. I need to go into that newer market, or I want to go towards that market that I wanted to do originally. How can I do that? And that past self, I suppose, is something about the bag of skills that I've generated along the way. How can I use that to go in the direction I want? Or have I got the confidence? Sometimes when you've got little time to think about what you're doing because you're busy doing, it's easy to lose your confidence in the direction that you wanted to go in the first place. I think a good mentor can help you get back to that, to say, actually, you have got the skills, you have got the background, you have got the resources, you can do this if you want to. So how do we put in an action plan into that to help make that happen, really?
I think everyone in business, their worst critic is always themselves.
Yeah.
And help them use that critic for the good, not for the bad.
Yeah.
Sort of, right,
maybe.
Why are we doing this and how are we going to make this better?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I suppose you're just so immersed in it all the time that you'll see it in a different way in which other people will see it.
Yeah.
And that's the way people see your business is the most important thing, because they're your customers.
Yeah, yeah, and how you're presenting that your business to the audience, in what channels, how is that channel speaking to that customer segment, and have we got that tone right? There's so many different facets.
Things like, are you attracting the customer you want?
Yeah.
Right.
Is it profitable customer? That we get to all sorts of fundamentals within the whole business model. That we all know everything does change around us. So are we changing the way we want to change? Are we adapting the way we want to, or are we being pulled along? And do we want to stop that kind of thing?
Like Jacqui says, it depends on the circumstances of the individual, and each individual and each circumstance is different. So it's allowing them to sort their own thing out.
I think you talked a little bit about like management there. Like, are you getting into specifics of the business, like finance or sort of people management and things like that? Are you delving into all of that as well?
Well, depending on the set of circumstances and the goal that they want to achieve, is what are the blockers there to achieving that goal. So then you'll get into resources, or the right partners, the leadership team around you, the supplier network that you have. So it's kind of like getting them to identify which are their biggest blockers.
Right. Okay.
As they see it at this moment, and perhaps then what you're trying to do is create another way of thinking about the challenge or the opportunity. How do we make it the opportunity that we can grab? But you kind of get to know the context, because you've got to create trust. It's a very trusted relationship, a mentee and a mentor. You've got to build that trust and that rapport. Otherwise, you can't have open and frank conversations that are confidential between people. And really that's where it comes into really listening to
Yeah.
what are we hearing as mentors, as opposed to, and then transferring that to what we believe you're saying is this, is that right? You know, that what would unlock that? Because we can get, as business owners, we can get fixed into what we believe is the problem, and keep running down that. But sometimes there's something that lies behind that we unlock, the piece that lies behind. And once you've unlocked that, then you can move.
So as they go through the mentoring, they start to re-examine assumptions that they've made.
Yeah.
Based on what they know, not on what we know, but based on what they know. So they can come to the solution that was in there already,
Yeah.
but they can get to the solution that actually works for them now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose it gives them time to think about what's possible.
Yeah.
Sure.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. And you also touched on sort of the academic side of business as well. And I think that will be really useful to people. Obviously not everyone has done a MBA or whatever. You know, how do you sort of feed those sort of frameworks and things like that into your teaching, mentoring?
A good question.
Things like what we did find by joining the universities was that there were so many great academic models.
Mm-hmm.
And academic models sound like, well, it's academic, it's a theoretical model. But what we wanted to do was make them practical. So we're almost like a translator that says that's a really great way of structuring your thinking about something, whether it's teams or growth or management or coaching your own teams or the business model canvas, you know, that really looks at things in boxes and says, actually, what does each of those boxes mean? And how can I use it? Because as businesses, we're time poor. We want to be busy. We want sort of solutions that are quite quick, that we can articulate, but we know that they're backed by good evidence. They're a good model. We just need to know how to use it.
Yeah.
And we want our people in our businesses to be able to use them as well. So it's about really, I suppose it's a translation.
Yeah.
From academic speak into business speak. Is that, and how is this really useful to us in a small or mid-sized firm as opposed to a corporate? You know, a lot of the academic models are designed for corporate thinking. We don't have those corporate structures, but we have different structures. How do we adapt that to make it really useful to growth stages? I think that's what we probably have honed over the years.
Yeah, the models allow you to simplify a very complex problem.
Yeah.
Once you've simplified it, you can then adapt it and move it forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really it. Yeah.
I mean, a small business has to focus on absolutely everything to do with the business. So in the mentoring stage, you allow them just to pinpoint on the things that they've actually identified as this is where my problem lies, rather than looking at the whole business as a whole.
Yeah.
They can spend some time thinking through the individual small point of that business that's really causing them frustration.
Yeah.
And as Jacqui says, the initial problem is never the problem, or the initial opportunity is never the opportunity. It's something that lies behind that. And mentoring allows them to examine that and get to the answer.
Yeah. Because you tend to over focus on everything. And then if you can just create focus on, say we've got 9 boxes for the business model, 9 boxes. So we're going to be good at some of them and we're going to be less good at some of them. So if we're less good at some of them and it's actually holding us back, what do we do? Mm-hmm. You know, what little action plans should we put in place to almost unlock that box? If we unlock that box, then we unlock the other boxes around it, and it starts to create a ripple. But it's not, nobody needs to be overwhelmed with a whole load of information that's not necessary. So there's something about using the model to identify where the real challenge is at this moment in time, because that will change.
It could change by the next session.
Yeah, exactly. So we've fixed that bit. Let's move to the next. Let's move to the next. Yes. So it's that kind of approach, practical. It's got to be practical.
Yeah. Allowing them to look at opportunities and think, right, if I had time, how would I solve that? They find they get the time and they solve it and they create a new opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's them doing it.
Yeah.
We're just helping them get there.
Yeah. And I suppose that's the joy of a mentor relationship, is that they sit outside with lived experience, and that they're not directly involved in that business, but they are outside sounding board of, I did this, that didn't work, I'll do this, you know.
Yeah, it's
or,
actually all right for it not to work.
yeah, it's all right for it not to work. Maybe it didn't work, but let's try the next thing. Like, why didn't it work? Let's analyze that. It's just those moments to think. And honestly, for an hour a month,
It's a joy.
it's just, it's a joy as a mentor, you know, as well as hopefully as a mentee.
Hopefully.
Hopefully mentee, yeah.
It's not always easy for the mentee. It's very hard to actually start looking inside your own head, and some sessions can be quite tough, but if they commit to the process, it really does work.
Yeah. I mean, from what you're saying there, it just sounds so useful, you know, for a business owner to get involved. What was the sort of feedback that you received from your mentees?
It was kind of like, it was a great way of unlocking your own thinking, because that's what that was really about, was kind of giving them space to really think through what they think is a challenge, but actually it's not. It's something that requires more thought and more articulation. We're all very good at solving things that are familiar, but sometimes when it's not so familiar, it goes round and round and round in your head, and you sort of bury it underground, and then all of a sudden you think, I've really got to tackle this now. I need the space to think. And it just, good questions help you unlock your own thoughts, and you come up with your own plan. So for me, great sounding board. I got that kind of thing, that the experience was just about helping me move, or helping me get clarity, be clear on what I need to do next. It's almost a joyful place to be. Or I can actually sleep at night.
Yeah, I've got time.
I can actually sleep now, because it's not going round and round in my head. I've got a plan. Or it might be, I've had this idea for ages, and I've now been able to articulate it, and actually I don't want to do that. It doesn't have to take my brain anymore, because I'm not going to do it, or I am going to do it. So that unlocking, I think, really.
It's almost, it is that unlocking. It's getting that noise outside your head and saying, is this useful noise or is it not useful noise? And allowing them to move forward. And I mean, all the mentees are currently working with us post mentor sessions anyway. We feel that they're getting something from this. Yeah.
So it really depends if they're new to business, or are quite long in business, that are looking to change. And there is a different way of approaching it, depending on the skill base that they have and the knowledge base that each person has. That's why it's always going to be, it's never going to be one size fits all. It's always going to be a unique relationship.
The mentee has to be committed towards it, and the mentees that we had were all committed towards the process, and that makes it a mentoring. Mentoring is mentor and mentee, and if they're both committed to the relationship, it works.
So it's unlocking for me. Is that thing of, or different ways of thinking, or actually I've now got the confidence to do what I was thinking I could do, but I thought I couldn't do. You know, I wouldn't ever underestimate confidence in being able to take an action.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, it's great to hear some of that amazing feedback that you've received. And if the listeners go to our website, which I'll link in the description below this podcast, you'll see some of the other amazing feedback we've received, and it is really glowing. People that have really benefited from the mentoring program. And we'd really urge you to give it a go. So just click the link, find out about it, and get in touch, and we can set things up for you. Thanks so much, Jack and Keith, for being with us today to discuss the program.
Thank you.
Speak later.
All right, bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.